I wasn't supposed to go out that Halloween. My mom always said October 31st wasn't a night for wandering. Old things wake up on cold nights, she'd whisper, mostly joking. Mostly. It used to creep me out when I was little, but at 17, superstition felt like a blanket you eventually grow out of. Still, when my friends texted, "Harper House? Midnight?" my stomach dipped. The place was the wrong kind of famous. A girl disappeared there in the late 80s. Not kidnapped, not murdered, just gone. One second she was lying on her bedroom floor coloring pictures, and the next minute her mother walked in to find only a warm dent in the carpet where she'd been sitting. No body, no damage, no sounds. Some disappearances are loud. Hers was quiet. We met outside just before midnight. Streetlights flickered like sick fireflies. Cold fog coiled around the broken porch posts. Ben bounced on his heels, pretending he wasn't nervous. Sasha shoved her sleeves up like she was prepping for a job interview. Tyler cracked jokes, bad ones, the kind you tell when you don't want snow settling in your veins. The new rumor, wasn't about mirrors or chanting. It was about the listening game. You go into the Harper house and sit in the missing girl's room. No talking, no laughing, phones off. For 10 seconds after midnight, you listen. If you hear breathing behind you, you leave immediately. If you hear crying above you, you leave slowly. But if you hear scratching beneath you, you don't leave. It sounded made up. Viral trend fake. But someone had carved the rules into the bedroom wall years ago, and nobody owned up to it. We slipped through the front door. The hinges wheezed in protest. Inside, it felt like the air had settled decades ago and never moved. Wallpaper curled off like dried seaweed. The floor sagged like it forgot how to hold weight. We climbed the stairs. Every step complained. The girl's room was small. Yellowed drawings covered the wall. Tiny houses, stick figures, then later, just black scribbles. As if the crayons grew teeth and bit down into the paper. A music box sat on a dusty dresser, lid snapped shut. Nobody touched it. We sat cross-legged on the floor, shoulders almost touching. It was 11:58. Nobody joked now. When the digital watch on my wrist beeped midnight, something inside the house shifted, like it adjusted its spine. We closed our eyes. 1. The wood under us vibrated faintly. Not sound, movement. 2. The air grew denser, like a blanket settling over our shoulders. 3. Something creaked in the walls, timber or tiny knuckles. 4. My breath fogged even though the room wasn't cold seconds ago. 5. A soft sound above us, like fabric dragged over beams. Crying or breathing. It was too quiet to place. 6. The boards beneath my palms warmed, something alive under there. 7. A whisper, but not from the room. Inside my ear. Come back. 8. A soft scrape. Under the floorboards. Like fingers testing distance. 9. I held my breath. 10. Silence. We opened our eyes. The house didn't. It breathed. The floor rose slightly, air moving through old pipes or lungs too big for the structure around them. The hallway door was closed. We hadn't closed it. Sasha whispered, "Time to go." We stood. The doorknob turned. Too easily. Relief fluttered inside me, but the hallway smelled wrong. Like pennies and rain-soaked earth. We hurried down the stairs. Halfway down, the crying started again. Louder now, but not from above. From inside the walls. Small fists pounding behind the wallpaper. Pleading. "Wait. Wait. Please." Words smothered by plaster. I froze. Something heavy landed upstairs. Thud. Boards splintered. Whatever it was bigger than a child. Ben whispered, "Keep moving." The front door slammed shut, hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling. The crying turned desperate. Something scraped just behind the door, fingernail dry, frantic. We bolted to the living room windows. They didn't budge, not stuck, breathing. Warm fog formed on the inside of the glass. "Back room," Tyler hissed. We ran down a narrow hall toward the kitchen. Something dragged in the walls beside us, pacing us from the other side. Dry fingernails? Or teeth? The kitchen door was cracked open. We burst through and stopped. The girl. Not a ghost. Not transparent. Just a girl in a faded nightgown, knees hugged to her chest beneath the sink. Dirt smudged her cheeks. Hair tangled. She stared at us with wide, terrified eyes. Her voice was sandpaper. "You shouldn't answer." "Answer what?" I whispered. The walls groaned, wood bending inward. "The knocking," she breathed. Something pounded on the front door, 3 slow knocks. Then silence. We looked at each other. No one moved. 3 more knocks. Harder. Like someone dragging bone across oak. The girl shook violently. "Don't answer." She crawled further under the cabinets, hiding behind cleaning bottles. We backed away. The knocks continued, steady as a heartbeat. Then they moved. To the wall behind us. 3 knocks. Plaster cracked. To the ceiling. 3 knocks. Dust rained. To the floor beneath our feet. 3 knocks. Wood swelled, board splitting. We didn't speak. We didn't breathe. The house inhaled again. The girl began to sob. "It only needs one answer." Then something answered, from the stairs. "Let me in." That voice wasn't ours. We backed into the laundry room, shadows stretched wrong across the tile. The washer door rattled like something inside was trying to climb out. Sasha grabbed my wrist. "Window." We clawed it open, cold air knifed in. Tyler shoved Sasha through first, then Ben. I climbed halfway out. Fingers wrapped around my ankle. Tiny fingers. They trembled. "Don't leave me alone," the girl whispered. I looked back. She stood in the kitchen doorway, eyes impossibly wide, pupils swallowing irises. Behind her, the ceiling bent as something huge crawled across it, limbs bending backwards, elbows splitting drywall. I kicked loose and fell into the grass. Tyler grabbed my jacket. We sprinted until our lungs burned raw. At the end of the street, we turned. The house sat still, quiet, but the front door stood half open now. Inside, something giggled. Sasha sobbed. We walked home without speaking, each of us peeling away at different intersections. I didn't sleep, because at 3:14 a.m., something tapped on my bedroom wall. 3 slow knocks, followed by a whisper, "Let me in." I held my breath until sunrise. The next day at school, Sasha was missing. "Family emergency," the office said. Tyler didn't show either. Ben arrived late, pale, with scratches on his forearms. He wouldn't meet my eyes. After class, I walked home alone. Everyone's curtains twitched when I passed. At sunset, the tapping began again, louder this time. 3 knocks, then, "Don't leave me alone." I shoved my dresser against the wall. Pillows around it. I put in headphones, blasted music. Didn't help. When the music cut out, battery dead, I heard giggling inside the wall, like a child sitting in the dark, playing with something sharp. I haven't been back to the Harper house, but I don't need to. It's been following us. Yesterday I got a group text from an unknown number. "Come back, we're waiting. It's lonely here," sent from Tyler's phone. Tonight, the knocking came from my closet. 3 knocks. This time, a tiny voice whispered, "You left without answering." I don't know what happens when you answer, but I can hear something breathing in my room right now, not behind the wall, behind me, and it's waiting for my voice. I never truly believed in the traditions of my town. Beckett Hollow is small, quiet, draped in pine trees and old rumors. People say the bones of the valley hold strange things, but I always thought it was just something bored adults said to pass the time. Every Halloween, we gather behind the old VFW building to perform the burning of the dark. The adults chant. The volunteers light a bonfire big enough to be seen from the highway, and everyone pretends they feel safer when it's done. To me, it was just another excuse for cheap hot cider, funnel cakes, and gossip. Superstition dressed like celebration. I went mostly because my friends insisted. There were 5 of us. Penn, with her copper-streaked hair and quick, anxious laugh. Cade, always smirking through his braces. Luis, quiet and serious unless you earned his jokes. Marnie, the filmmaker chasing scholarships with a camera always swinging from her neck, and me, trying to pretend I wasn't bored by everything. That night, the air was cold enough to nip at our fingers, and the sky stretched black and clear overhead. The giant bonfire waited to be lit, logs stacked like a wooden mountain. Firefighters hovered nearby with hoses and too much confidence. The pastor stepped up to a squealing microphone, cleared his throat, and began the chant everyone in town knew by heart. People closed their eyes or pretended to. "Burn away the dark," they murmured. "Warm our hearths and keep spirits at rest." Kids chewed on glow sticks. Adults whispered about heating bills. Tradition didn't feel holy anymore. It felt tired, like everyone was reciting a script without remembering why. My friends and I exchanged glances. This was our cue. We slipped away from the crowd, climbing through a bent section of chain-link fence that led into the pines. The moment we stepped under the branches, the light faded. The bonfire hadn't even been lit yet, but somehow the woods felt darker than they should. Needles crunched beneath our boots, and our breath came out in pale streams. "Okay," Cade whispered, pulling out a folded sheet of printer paper. "Found the backwards version online." He grinned, proud and reckless. "If you say the chant reversed, it doesn't burn the dark. It invites it." I laughed, but it sounded weak. It was the laugh of someone trying not to imagine their own shadow. I wanted to say no, but Pen nudged my shoulder, excitement bright in her eyes. The camera's red recording light blinked like a warning. Marnie whispered for us to huddle deeper into the woods, away from any adult who might notice. We crouched in a shallow dip filled with damp needles, a little circle carved by decades of bored teenagers doing exactly what we were doing now. The town's chant drifted faintly through the trunks, rhythmic and steady. Cade lifted the printed page. 3 times, he said, and we don't mess up the syllables. I stood slightly apart. Something in my stomach twisted, but I told myself I was just cold. They began to speak. The chant reversed, became guttural and ugly, a harsh string of sounds that scraped the throat. "Crad it, yow and rub!" The words felt wrong to hear, like pushing a door that shouldn't open. They repeated it, louder, more confident. The very air seemed to shiver. On the 3rd repetition, the pastor shouted something and the bonfire roared to life. Flames leapt 15 feet high, lighting the trunks around us like lantern posts. We watched the fire lick the sky, playful at first. But then everything changed. The fire pulled backward. I don't mean it died down. I mean it recoiled, sucked toward its own center as if something grabbed it by the core. The flames twisted into a shape that was darker than night, a pitch black that hurt to look at. Heat vanished. Frost appeared on branches. Torches held by adults flickered and winked out like someone walked past each one, squeezing the flames between invisible fingers. Soot drifted down in slow, heavy flakes. It landed on my hood, my eyelashes. When I wiped one from my cheek, a sharp cold burned beneath my skin, spreading like frostbite. My friends froze, staring through the trees toward the bonfire. Screams echoed, distant and muffled, as if the sound struggled to reach us. Then something stepped out of the soot. A tall figure, all angles and charred wood, joints bent like broken branches. Its eyes were hollow pits, glowing ember red, pulsing with slow, hungry breaths. A thin slit served as a mouth, glowing orange like a coal someone blew to life. When it stepped onto the ground, blackened footprints smoked without smoke, glossy like spilled oil. And then 4 smaller figures crawled out after it, one for each of my friends. We ran, branches slapped our faces. The cold bit into our lungs. Ash fell like black snow. Somewhere behind us, voices cried out, then choked into silence. When we reached the gravel lot, the streetlights flickered violently, then dimmed. Houses across town blinked dark one by one, like dominoes falling. We huddled near the last working light. The 5 soot figures split apart across the hill, drifting in eerie, slow steps toward our neighborhoods. Each took a different road. Each seemed to know exactly where to go. "That one's heading toward my house," Pen whispered, voice strangled. "And that one's heading toward mine," Luis murmured, eyes wide. I pulled out my phone to call 911. Nothing, not even static. "Signal jam," Cade muttered. His attempt at logic sounded like panic. "We go to the school," I said. "Meet there. Don't go home. Don't split up." But fear splinters people. Pen wanted to run home to her little brother. Luis sprinted toward his street. Cade chased after him, yelling for him to stop. Only Marnie hesitated, camera clutched to her chest, torn between running and filming. "Morning," she said finally. "We'll meet in the morning." She vanished into darkness, chasing the ember mouth headed toward her. I made it to the school alone. The building was unlocked, stupidly, eerily unlocked. I ducked into the AV room and turned on the hallway monitors. Blurry footage showed the black figures slipping into houses like smoke. Wherever they entered, lights blinked out. Not smashed, just gone. Hours passed. My pulse never slowed. Sirens eventually wailed through town, too late and too soft. Police knocked on doors. Parents screamed. The monitors fuzzed with static, then cut out. By dawn, exhaustion dragged me home. Charred footprints stained sidewalks, climbing porches, pausing at windowsills. My porch had one, perfectly centered, as if someone stood and waited a very long time. At Penn's house, officers whispered behind clipped radios. On her bed rested a neat pile of gray ash, shaped vaguely like her outline, sheets untouched, wallpaper unburned, and on the pillow, a single copper hair. At Luis's, the ash pile was scooped tenderly into a bowl and covered with a dish towel because his mom couldn't bear the sight. At Cade's farm, the ash was spread across quilt squares, as if he'd simply crumbled in his sleep. At Marnie's apartment, wind chimes stilled. Her mother sat cross-legged, rocking silently, begging air to give her daughter back. 5 teenagers, gone without flame, without sound, replaced by ash. Everyone invented explanations. Cult activity, carbon monoxide, spontaneous combustion. Anything but the truth. Anything but the black figures drifting through yards like memories that learned how to walk. I didn't sleep that night. Something breathed outside my door, hot, slow, casting orange light beneath the crack. When I pressed my ear against the wood, warmth pulsed through it, rhythmic. Morning revealed another set of charred footprints stopping at my porch. Closer, days blurred, casseroles filled kitchen counters, counselors offered pamphlets. No one looked directly at me. Tradition marched on. Then a package appeared at our door. No return address. Marnie's camera sat inside. My blood went cold. I charged it in my room with trembling fingers. There was one final clip. It showed the 5 of us chanting backward, ash falling thicker, the bonfire collapsing into darkness, figures rising like bad ideas made flesh, and behind us stood a 6th silhouette. It had my height, my jacket, but inside its outline, ash swirled like smoke trapped in glass. Its ember mouth slowly brightened. It raised a hand and traced a shape toward the lens, a circle, a doorway. Then the footage cut. I dropped the camera. My hands shook for hours. That night, soot leaked from my vents. My bedroom smelled like a wet fireplace. Warm breaths pressed rhythmically against my door. The wood vibrated gently, like something humming just beyond it. In the morning, there were 4 footprints on the porch. By the 3rd night, 5. A week later, the pastor announced we would rebuild the bonfire. For healing, he claimed. People clapped. Tradition outweighs tragedy in Beckett Hollow. Belief is optional. Participation is mandatory. Yesterday, someone told me they dreamed of ember mouths whispering beneath their bed. Another student hasn't shown up to class. Ash stains linger beneath 3 windows downtown, swept and reswept, never fading. Tonight, there are 7 footprints on my porch. They stop at my bedroom window. The glass is warm when I touch it. As I write this, light bulbs flicker overhead. Dust drifts from vents like dark snow. Something taps politely on the other side of my wall. 3 soft knocks, evenly spaced. Heat pulses through the wood. My name crackles from behind the door, spoken backward in a voice made of embers. I fear if I answer, my mouth will fill with soot. I fear if I ignore it, the door will open anyway. It's whispering again, softer now, patient. The lock is turning. I think the ash version of me finally found the right house, and I'm afraid this time, I'll get up to let it in. I used to think all those urban legends were only good for sleepovers and cheap jump scares. The Bloody Mary ritual was something middle schoolers whispered about in bathrooms, daring each other under flickering lights. By the time I turned 17, I thought I'd outgrown all that. But some rituals don't care how old you are when you call them. Halloween night that year was boring. Our town had one sad street of decorations. Plastic skeletons hung crookedly and dollar store cobwebs tangled in the wind. My friends bailed on trick-or-treating, claiming they were too old, so I stayed home. My mom worked a late shift, and our house was quiet except for the soft beep of the microwave clock and the rustle of leaves against the siding. The air tasted dry, dusty with the smell of pumpkins and cold dirt. At around 11, after shutting off the porch light, I got a text from my friend Maya. Bet you won't do the Bloody Mary challenge tonight. She added laughing emojis and a skull. My first instinct was to ignore it, but boredom gnawed at me, and something stubborn twisted in my chest. It's strange how quickly pride can become a noose. I went upstairs to the bathroom. The mirror was old, slightly warped around the edges from steam damage. The overhead bulb buzzed faintly. I stared at my reflection. Messy hair, tired eyes, sweater sleeves pushed up to my elbows. Just me. I flicked off the lights so only the hallway glow poured in under the door. Shadows stretched long beneath the sink. I felt ridiculous, but I whispered it anyway. Bloody Mary. My breath fogged the glass. Bloody Mary! The second one sank into the dark, swallowed by tile and silence. I hesitated before the third. There was a tightness in my throat, like the moment before you give a speech. I leaned closer, my forehead almost touching the cold mirror. Bloody Mary, I held still. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. My reflection wavered slightly from my breath, but nothing happened. I let out a shaky laugh and reached for the light switch. That's when the bathroom went completely black. The hallway light vanished like someone yanked the cord. My hand froze mid-air. A cold breeze slithered across my ankles, smelling like damp stone. Then the mirror fogged over on its own, though the air around me was freezing. I heard breathing that wasn't mine, slow, ragged, wet. It seemed to echo from inside the glass. I forced myself to look. A face stared back at me where mine should have been. A woman's, skin pale and stretched thin, eyes black as if wells had been carved out and never filled. Deep scars crossed her face, from cheek to jawline, as if someone had clawed her out of a grave. Her lips were cracked, and when she opened her mouth, I felt cold fingers push against my chest, even though nothing touched me. I screamed, stumbled, and slammed the light switch repeatedly. The bulb flickered angrily, then burst into life, warm and yellow. The mirror showed only my reflection, wide-eyed and shaking. Her face was gone. My skin buzzed like a limb waking from numbness. For a long moment I couldn't breathe. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the lamp on, staring at my phone, swiping through videos just to drown out the quiet. At some point I must have drifted off because I woke up to sunlight pressing through the curtains. Everything seemed normal. The hallucination, or whatever it was, felt distant, like a nightmare's aftertaste. That illusion shattered when I pulled up my sleeve. 3 thin scratches ran along my forearm. They weren't deep, but they burned like paper cuts. I leaned closer, and my stomach dropped. They weren't random. They curved into lines, letters, my name. My voice wavered. No. I scrubbed them clean, but no blood came. They looked days old, already scabbed and dry. Panic drummed behind my ribs. I tried to rationalize, telling myself maybe I scratched myself while sleeping. Maybe my reflection was just a combination of darkness and nerves. But something followed me that day, the feeling of being watched from windows, from dark screens, from behind closing doors. That evening I went downstairs for water. When I passed the hallway mirror, I froze. There was a smear on it. It looked like someone pressed both their fingers and forehead against the glass, with enough force to leave oily impressions. But I hadn't touched it, and in the smeared center was the faint imprint of lips. I rushed back upstairs, turned on every light, and locked my door. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I saw you. Followed by another. You looked at me. I dropped the phone, breath hitching. When I picked it up again, the texts were gone. That night I woke up to tapping, soft, like fingernails gently clicking on wood. It came from the mirror on my closet door. I lay frozen, covers pulled to my chin, listening. The tapping grew more impatient. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps, again. I forced myself to sit up. My reflection looked back, distorted by shadows. Behind my reflection, pressed against the inside surface of the mirror, were pale fingers. They dragged downward, leaving faint trails like frost melted by heat. I whispered, "Stop." The tapping paused, and then I heard her voice, hoarse, whisper thin. "Look at me." I shook my head violently. "No." The fingers curled like a beckoning gesture. "Let me be seen." I bolted out of bed, threw a blanket over the mirror, and slept with my back against the door. Every so often the blanket fluttered as if someone exhaled beneath it. By morning, exhaustion dragged at my limbs. I researched ways to break the ritual, scrolling through forums full of half-jokes and urban legends. One comment stuck out: "If she marks your name, she wants you." Another: "The more you avoid mirrors, the angrier she gets." And another, buried deep: "Don't show fear. If she sees fear, she takes your face." That night at dinner, my mom asked why I looked pale. I lied, blaming allergies. But when I went to wash dishes, I saw something in the kitchen window's reflection. My reflection smiling, though my real mouth was slack and silent. I screamed, dropping a plate. It shattered, spraying shards across tile. Mom didn't believe the truth. How could she? I covered every mirror in the house with sheets, duct tape, whatever I could find, but reflections exist everywhere. Glass on picture frames, dark television screens, bowls of water. I caught glimpses of her scarred face in the curve of a spoon. When I blinked, she was gone. Sleep became impossible. The whispers got louder when I tried. You called me. Don't turn away. Let me wear you. On the 5th night, I snapped. I marched into the bathroom, tore down the towel covering the mirror, and stared straight in. She was already there. Her hand pressed flat against the glass, palm matching mine, our fingers aligned. My reflection faded behind hers like ink diluted in water. Her voice crawled from the mirror, vibrating my skull. You showed me the world. Now show me your place in it. I slammed my palm against the glass. Leave me alone. Cracks spidered from the impact, webbing across her face, her features shattered with them. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd beaten her. Then blood seeped from the cracks, dripping down the sink. The mirror whined like a dog in pain. I stumbled backward. That night, while I slept in short, choking bursts, she carved new scratches into my arm, deeper this time, letters forming a sentence that made my skin crawl. Let me out. I woke screaming. My sheets were damp with sweat and something darker. I realized then, she wasn't in the mirror anymore. She was behind it, scratching through. I dragged furniture in front of the bathroom door. I avoided all reflective surfaces, stuffing tape over my phone screen, unplugging electronics. But reflections are patient. They find ways. On Halloween night, exactly 1 week since I summoned her, I heard the scraping again. Walls thinned, wood groaned. Her whisper threaded through the house. You can't cover every mirror. My bedroom window darkened. Condensation formed. On it, a fingertip traced letters slowly, deliberately. If you look, I'll come. I squeezed my eyes shut. She tapped the glass with her nail. Again. Again. My heart thundered. The tapping stopped. Silence stretched thin. Then her whisper slid beneath the bed. Just one look. The window exploded inward. Glass rained across my desk. The night outside gaped like an open mouth. I didn't look. I curled into a ball and screamed until my throat tore. Eventually, the house went quiet. Morning found me trembling, bleeding from a dozen cuts. There were no footprints, no fingerprints, only one new scratch on my arm, scabbed and angry. Soon, I tell myself I won't look. I tell myself mirrors are avoidable. But reflections are everywhere. Puddles after rain. The shine of a doorknob. Someone's eyes meeting mine. Every time something glints, I see her shape lurking just behind me. Waiting. The worst part? Sometimes my reflection blinks a half second too late, and I know she's getting closer. Most people don't believe in rituals anymore. They're entertainment now, packaged as TikTok trends and YouTube dares. I didn't believe either, not really, but belief doesn't matter when curiosity takes over. My downfall started because I laughed at a post that said 12 black candles could let you stare evil in the eyes. The more I scrolled, the more comments I found, some joking, some deadly serious. At some point, a dare becomes a seed. You water it with boredom and it grows teeth. I worked part-time at a pharmacy, so black candles weren't exactly stocked next to shampoo. I went to 4 stores before I found any. 12 tall wax pillars in a dusty craft shop run by a woman with cataract-clouded eyes. When she counted them, her lips moved like she was praying or cursing under her breath. At the register, she asked what I needed so many for. I told her a Halloween display. She stared at me too long and whispered, "Make sure you're the only one looking." That should have been warning enough. Halloween night arrived cold and skeletal, moon hanging low like a cracked tooth. My mom was working a double shift and my younger brother was at a sleepover. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak of settling wood into footsteps. I gathered the candles, a lighter, and my dying phone. The online comments echoed in my mind. Bathroom mirror, lights out, eyes closed, wait for midnight. The bathroom felt smaller than usual when I shut the door. Mirrors trap shadows in strange ways. I arranged the candles on the counter, around the sink, on the toilet lid. 12 dripping soldiers. Their flames flickered warm at first, then leaned as if something invisible exhaled across the room. The smell of melting wax mixed with something faintly metallic, like old pennies. I turned off the overhead light. Darkness swallowed me except for the trembling rings of flame reflected endlessly in the mirror. The air thickened. I closed my eyes because the ritual said to. My heart beat too loud. When you stand alone in a dark bathroom, time doesn't behave. Seconds stretch like taffy. The house shifted, pipes sighing, wood popping, the distant rattle of wind. Then something else, soft, subtle, a whisper like fabric dragging across tile. I tried to breathe quietly. The digital clock on my phone ticked toward 11:59. My palms were damp. I squeezed my eyes tighter shut. I thought about backing out, turning on the light, blowing out flames, but the thought of telling my friends I chickened out burned worse than fear. The phone vibrated once, midnight. I opened my eyes. At first I thought the mirror was fogged, but the blur sharpened until a face stared back that wasn't mine. The skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched over sharp cheekbones. Eyes like ink, no whites, seemed to pulse with their own dim glow. Horns didn't curl from its head, nothing cartoonish. It was worse. It looked almost human, like a starving reflection trying to mimic my face and failing. Its lips moved, but no voice came. Mine didn't. I couldn't look away. The candle's flames leaned inward toward the mirror, drawn like hunger. The room felt wrong, air thinning, shadows growing edges. My limbs tingled, pins and needles crawling up my fingers. The reflection lifted its hand slowly. The bathroom iced over, frost spiderwebbed across the mirror from its fingertips, tracing down the glass like veins. My chest tightened. Panic surged, but when I tried to step back, my body didn't respond. My feet were cemented to tile. I whispered hoarsely, "Stop." But my voice sounded distant, muffled, like someone speaking through water. The reflection smiled, thin, too wide, and every candle shuddered. When the reflection opened its mouth, the bathroom lights went out completely. The flames didn't illuminate anything now. They only outlined the silhouette of something impossibly tall leaning toward the glass. The shape bent at odd angles, as though joints bent the wrong direction. I forced a scream from my throat, but all that came out was a breath stolen by the cold. Suddenly, my bathroom door rattled violently, like someone slamming it from the hallway. "Are you okay?" someone shouted. A voice I recognized. My neighbor, old Mr. Ellison. I didn't know how he heard anything, but the banging snapped whatever held me in place. My legs buckled. I grabbed the counter to stay upright. When I tore my gaze from the mirror, I saw only flame and tile, and my own horrified face half lit by candlelight. The mirror was blank. I blew out the candles with shaking breath. Smoke curled upward like something escaping. When I opened the bathroom door, Mr. Ellison backed away, eyes wide. He stammered an apology about hearing screaming. I nodded, lied, blamed nightmares. He didn't believe me, but he left. I didn't sleep that night. Every reflective surface in the house felt like a mouth waiting to open. The first mark appeared the next morning. Just above my collarbone, angry red skin spelled a single diagonal slash, like someone dragged a fingernail too deep. Over the next days, more scratches appeared, spelling crooked shapes. I scrubbed them raw, but they never bled. They looked burned in. When I stood before the mirror, the scratches tingled like something writing beneath the skin. 3 days in, my reflection blinked a fraction too late. A half-second lag, then its eyes twitched toward the corner on their own, not following me, watching something else, something over my shoulder. A week later, I started avoiding mirrors, phones, windows after rain, but reflections are patient. In a grocery store freezer door, I saw that pale face instead of mine. In a puddle outside school, I watched my reflection grin, even though my lips stayed frozen. My friends noticed the scratches, the exhaustion. I blamed allergies, stress, anything. How do you explain a ritual you regret so deeply it scrapes your dreams? 2 weeks after Halloween, another mark appeared. Letters this time, faint but definite. Just 3. L-O. O. One more scratch would complete the word. I covered it with tape, shirts, scarves. But reflections showed it clearly, glowing like embers beneath my skin. One night I woke to the soft whisper of wax dripping. All 12 black candles stood lit on my dresser, though I'd thrown them away days ago. Their flames leaned toward the mirror, the glass fogged. My reflection leaned forward, pressing both palms against the other side. Frost cracked outward from its fingers. I watched helplessly as the final scratch carved itself on my chest. K-L-O-O-K. The reflection mouthed the rest silently, at me. Something moved inside the mirror, shifting behind the glass like a crowd pressing forward. The glass bulged outward as if something tested its thickness. The room thinned to just the sound of my pulse. My reflection smiled, slow and victorious, and began pushing harder. I lunged forward and threw my blanket over the mirror. The glass groaned as if something shoved against fabric. I dragged my dresser against it, anchored every ounce of weight I could. The mirror screamed. Glass didn't scream, but something on the other side did. Frustrated, hungry, denied. The candles went out. Silence consumed the house. It has been 5 days. I haven't looked into a mirror since. I shave by touch. I wash dishes staring at the sink, never the window. But at night I hear soft tapping from behind the covered mirror. Patient tapping, counting sometimes. And sometimes when the house sleeps I hear my own voice whisper from behind the glass. You looked first. Now it's my turn. I don't know how long I can avoid reflections. They're everywhere. Phone screens, sunglasses, soup spoons. Some nights the mirror cover bulges outward slightly, like glass breathing, and every morning the scratches on my skin glow a bit darker. Tonight, something new appeared, an imprint of fingers pressing outward from behind the blanket. I think the mirror is thinning. The ritual asked what could go wrong. I'm running out of surfaces, not trying to answer. I never cared about Halloween rituals. Most were recycled nonsense, passed down by bored kids and curated by even more bored YouTube channels. But last year, something spread through my town that felt different, not supernatural, just wrong, in a way you can't explain until you're staring at it and realizing you can't blink anymore. It was called the Crossing Minute. We have an old train crossing on the edge of town. Rusted gate, broken warning light, tracks that groan when a train's coming, even though trains haven't run here in 30 years. People say the ground still remembers weight. Someone online claimed that at 12:01 on Halloween morning, if you stand on the tracks facing north and listen, you'll hear a distant whistle. If you turn around before the whistle stops, you get left alone. But if you keep facing forward and wait, the train arrives. Not physically, not materially, more like a memory, too heavy to stay buried. And if you board it, you'll see someone you've been missing. My father disappeared when I was 13, not died, not ran away, just walked out to his truck for work one morning and never came back. Police found the truck abandoned miles from town. Empty thermos, open glove compartment, driver's door ajar, no signs of struggle, the engine still warm. My mother shattered into quiet pieces after that, and suddenly the house felt too large for its silence. So when my friends suggested we try the Crossing Minute this year, I agreed before my brain had time to catch up to my voice. We met by the tracks at 11:55 p.m. The cold hit different there, like the metal rails, coughed frost into the air. Headlights from the nearest road barely reached us. The gate hung crooked, thick vines choking the wooden arms. A faded sign warned, "Do not cross after dark," but the paint peeled like skin. We stood on the tracks, shoulder to shoulder, facing north. No one talked. Even Tyler, who usually couldn't resist sarcasm, stared straight ahead. The air smelled like old smoke and wet leaves. Midnight came quietly. No bells, no chimes. Just the distant sound of a dog barking, cut off mid-howl. At 12:01, the rails hummed, deep vibration in my ankles, like a heartbeat in metal. Somewhere in the darkness, a whistle cried. Not loud. Not sharp. Mournful, dragged out long enough to taste grief on the back of my tongue. Behind us, the world went silent. The rule was simple. If you were afraid, turn around before the whistle ended. I kept staring forward, nails digging into my palms. The whistle faded into a quick exhale, then stopped entirely. That's when the world shifted. A headlight appeared down the track, not bright white, but yellowed like a dying lantern. The tracks groaned, wood swelling as if pushing up from the earth. The train was old, edges ash-colored, windows clouded. It moved without shaking air, without engine chug, like it slid through time instead of space. My friends disappeared, suddenly swallowed by darkness on either side. When I stepped forward, the crossing around me felt endless. The train doors hissed open, warm light spilled out. Inside, rows of seats stretched long and narrow. Each one held someone who avoided eye contact, shadows where faces should be, except one. My father sat near the middle, hands folded, wearing the same jacket he left home in. He stared out the window at nothing, eyes reflecting dull amber light. My throat closed. My legs moved without permission. "Dad?" He didn't blink, not until I stood in the aisle, shaking. When he turned, his expression hit me like a cold wave, not angry, not sad, confused, like he had been waiting too long and forgot how to speak. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. My knees nearly gave out. "Where did you go? Why didn't you come home?" He swallowed hard. "You can't talk on the train. Someone will hear." Someone? The car at the far end hissed open. A conductor stepped through, dark uniform, face blurred like sand and water. Not blank. Moving constantly, features sliding like wet paint. His footsteps made no sound. My father pulled me into the seat beside him. "Don't look at him." The conductor glided down the aisle, punching holes into tickets without raising his head. Each passenger trembled when he passed. Those who didn't offer a ticket froze up, went rigid, mouths sealing shut like wax poured over lips. I stammered, "What happens if you don't have one?" Dad squeezed my wrist so hard I winced. "You become one." The conductor neared our row. I held my breath. My father pulled something from his jacket pocket, a ticket. Old, frayed, name smudged. He placed it into my palm and hissed, "Hold it." When the conductor reached our row, he paused, his head tilted too far, neck creaking softly, the blur where his face should be expanded, as if sniffing. Then he punched the ticket silently and moved on. The relief nearly made me dizzy. My dad exhaled shakily. "You shouldn't have come." I tried not to look back. That's how they got me. "Who?" I whispered. He stared forward again. "The passengers who never leave." The train lurched, not physically, but like the world outside slid backward. Through the windows, houses reversed from decay into youth. Trees grew leaves, fog rewound into sky. The past rushed by, alive and terrible. We stopped at a station I didn't recognize. Fresh paint, glowing lights. Outside, people boarded, faces blurred, voices silent. When the doors closed, the train hummed deeper, as if satisfied. I grabbed my father's sleeve. "Come home with me." He didn't look. "I can't. My stop already passed." "But you got on." His voice cracked. "I stepped on the tracks when the whistle stopped." I waited too long to turn around. Fear crawled up my spine. "How do I get off?" His eyes glistened. "You already missed your chance." Passengers down the aisle tilted their heads, perfectly synced, like marionettes sensing a new thread to pull. Their blurred faces leaned forward. "You got on," they murmured together, voice layered like dozens speaking through one throat. "Now you ride." The conductor turned, slow and smooth, and began gliding back toward us. My father shoved me out of the seat. "When the whistle blows again, jump." "To where?" "Home," he said simply. "But you can't look at the train once you land. Not even for a goodbye." The bell clanged 3 times. The conductor was close enough that my skin prickled. My father stood between us, hands raised like a shield, though they trembled violently. The whistle screamed, a long, ripping note. I ran. Passengers hissed, reaching, arms stretching longer than sleeves should allow. The train doors flickered, open, closed, open, like indecision. I lunged as the next whistle blast tore through the car. I fell onto gravel, cold, wet. Night air slammed back into my lungs. I scrambled away, gravel biting my palms. The tracks beneath me rattled, then went still. I didn't look back. I ran home, chest caving with sobs I couldn't swallow. I collapsed inside my house and locked the door. My mother found me shaking on the couch at dawn. She didn't ask questions. She held me until my breathing calmed. I didn't sleep for 2 days. This morning, someone slid something under our front door, a frayed slip of paper, a train ticket, punched once, stamped with today's date. Under my name was handwritten, "Return trip pending." And tonight, at 12:01 on Halloween morning, I swear I heard tracks humming far beneath the house. The whistle hasn't started yet, but I know it will. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new upload. And tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Drop your location and time down in the comments. I'll be watching.